Spyro the Dragon is never really a topic I've covered before on this channel, aside from a Let's Play I made several years ago that has been long since taken down. But you know what? Why not? I mean, Spyro the Dragon is considered to be the younger brother of Crash Bandicoot, so let's talk about it.
In terms of who I like better, I tend to prefer Crash over Spyro. I grew up playing some of the Spyro games, but they never really resonated with me the same level as Crash did. As a result of such, I didn't become a full-on Spyro fan until much later in his life cycle. But around late 2015 and early 2016, I picked myself up the original PS1 Spyro trilogy, and damn, I kinda feel sad that I didn't get more into these when I was a child. Spyro 1 through 3 are amazing 3D platformers that truly deserve the praise they've gained. However, there was one Spyro game that I specifically avoided, because I heard terrible things about it, and I had already played it once as a child and hated it even back then. That game was Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. The fourth console Spyro game and the first Spyro game to be put onto the PS2. Also the first Spyro game not developed by the original creators, Insomniac. This game, as you may already know, is the definite low point of the franchise. Many people have trashed it to hell and back. Not only that, it just looked really bad to me in general, so I avoided it. Until recently, I decided to look into the development of this game. There's a documentary of the game's development on YouTube, and the documentary states that the reason why Spyro 4 is the heaping pile of shit it is because the developers and publishers had some very extreme creative differences. The lead developers, Check 6, wanted to create a much edgier Spyro game. Not like Shadow the Hedgehog edgy, but more akin to the later Harry Potter films, if you catch my drift. While Universal wanted to stick to the more traditional approach of the classic Spyro games. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, essentially. Check 6 and Universal tried so hard to combine both of their visions together to make a proper Spyro title, but it just ended up being a glorified clusterfuck. As a result of these creative differences, the main design document for the game got changed numerous times during the game's development.
Oh no, I did not say before the game's development. I said during the game's development, and that was not a mistake.
And this caused the main game itself and its overall premise to change multiple times throughout development. Early builds of Enter the Dragonfly were said to be really fun, and were also said to have features that weren't fucking present in the final build. In fact, the early builds compared to the final builds were basically completely different Spyro games, at least according to the developers. And this was due to content being altered and removed entirely, ranging from cut levels to characters, music, and basically everything. That's not even putting into account the fact that the game had to be rushed to make a holiday deadline. Of course, it's one of those games. And this caused a tremendous amount of stress for the developers. This documentary actually contains interviews with some of the developers, and literally every single one of them had almost nothing but distaste for the game's development. Check 6 had a very toxic work environment, so toxic in fact that team members were often tempted to hit each other. In fact, there are leftover developer comments in the game's code, and my god, just read this shit. If this is just a small sample of Check 6's work environment, then it makes me very curious to know what went down behind the scenes. But that stuff was almost 20 years ago, and most of that drama probably doesn't matter anymore. And I'm pretty damn sure that the people involved in Spyro 4's development want to move on and not think about that shit anymore.
Seriously, there is a lot of interesting information in this documentary, and in fact, I highly recommend you give it a watch. It's long, but there's just so much interesting information on there that it is worth the long watch time. But putting the game's development aside, what does the final game have to offer? Exactly. I could end the review right here, but that wouldn't really be fair to the game itself.
I feel like there's this really annoying concept people adapt to that if a game is technically broken, then it's automatically bad. But in my opinion, while yes, bugs definitely bring down the quality of the game, that doesn't mean you still can't have fun with it, bugs aside. It really annoys me how people hate on games like Crash to Insanity, just for it generally being easy to break, blatantly ignoring the game's charming qualities. Same can be said for Sonic Adventure 1. I don't particularly like Sonic Adventure 1, but I don't hate it as much as other people do. And I feel that the majority of people only hate Sonic Adventure because of its glitchy nature. Obviously that's not everybody, but it's just annoying to hear somebody say,
"Oh, that game sucks because it's a broken mess."
Because, come on. You want to play a real broken mess? Play Big Rigs Over the Road Racing. So, I wanted to give Enter the Dragonfly a shot. Plus, I have a ton of games that I consider a guilty pleasure. So, maybe I'll be indifferent to this game. Plus, this game does have its fans, so I want to try to be fair and unbiased as possible, even though I'll probably fail.
So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. Now, I own both versions, but we're not going to be looking at the PS2 version, because even though that, as far as I'm aware, the game was primarily developed for the PS2, it runs worse on PS2. So, yeah. GameCube it is, I already have it in, it's loading, it keeps playing the demo over and over again, and Spyro literally keeps failing. I'm not even, look, he just goes off course, and then it just fades. It happens all the time. This game was rushed, in case you guys didn't know.
So the game begins, and what do you know? It's a long loader. Great. Now, I don't like to nitpick things, especially when it comes to basic shit like title screens. However, the first 3 Spyro games had really cute and charming title screens. From the first game to Year of the Dragon, each of the title screens started out with the Insomniac logo. Then the screen zooms out, showing the logo on a sign, being held by a bad guy who is about to be murdered by our adorable purple friend here. Then the title theme plays. These introductions are short and sweet. They do a great job at establishing the character of Spyro and the type of world you're gonna be playing in, with iconic music pieces by the legendary Stuart Copeland as a nice little cherry on top. So what does Spyro 4's title screen look like? Well, we already see the developer logos and a generic-ass screen fade out, and then we see a dragonfly playing around about to be captured by a ninja who then gets killed by Spyro. Now, I like the idea of this title screen, but when you compare it to the previous title screens, this one just feels so blatantly rushed. The logos don't appear on a sign, the music is already playing as soon as the scene loads, and the music itself is random as fuck. I mean, the music starts off with this long-ass intro percussion. Then eventually a somewhat decent bass line starts playing. And then I guess they decide to just throw in some loud-ass synths and electric guitars that's only 3 notes long!
What kind of beat is this?
This menu theme feels so lazily cobbled together with the most random of sounds. I think the main issue of this song for me is that it doesn't necessarily have a main melody. It more relies on just having a fun rhythm, and I can see that working out, but when you compare this theme to the previous themes from the other Spyro games, yeah, this one is just fucking lame. But enough of that, let's start bullying the intro cutscene. So we start off this intro cutscene with Hunter screaming in horror.
Oh, that's a tone setter.
So we see here that the baby dragons from Spyro 3 are getting their own dragonflies to protect them, and I really like this idea. I mean, before this game, we've barely, if ever, saw any other dragons that were the same age as Spyro, and we definitely didn't see any other dragons with dragonflies of their own. So seeing this idea come out is some nice world building. But that doesn't excuse the fact that this cutscene looks gross as shit. I mean, boy, these character models are special. Okay, well, Spyro looks pretty good, but Hunter and Bianca look like generic McDonald's bendy toys you'd get out of a Happy Meal. Their bulging spherical eyes looks really, really uncanny. And that's not even putting into account the fact that these animations are really weird. I don't know how to put it. The best way I can put it is that these character moves like they're puppets or animatronics, especially with Spyro. Then we see Ripto show up with his henchmen. And look, I know everyone and their mother has brought this up, but I clearly killed your bitch ass 2 games ago. And before anyone brings it up, yes, I am very aware that Ripto and Nasty Nork's return was teased at the end of Year of the Dragon. But just because we were told that he was coming back doesn't really justify it, and at no point in this story does the game actually explain how Ripto returned. Also, Nasty Nork is nowhere to be seen. Why? You already know why. So Ripto's here to tell Spyro and gang that he's here to steal the Dragonflies, and then proceeds to teleport them to random ass locations.
Rushed game, fellas.
Now I could sit here and complain about how horribly animated Ripto is, but that'd be way too easy. I mean, look at him. Seriously, you don't have to be a genius to know that's bad animation. And I should know, I'm good at making bad animations. What I am gonna complain about though is how out of character Ripto is in this game. When I think about the Ripto in this game and the Ripto we got in Spyro 2, I see 2 completely different characters. In this game, Ripto has the demeanor of a dastardly sorceress who uses magic to regularly cause trouble in the Dragon realms. And this is completely different from what was established in Spyro 2. Ripto is supposed to be this pissed off, power-hungry Riptalk who hates dragons. Hell, the name of the game is Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. Well, unless you're in Europe. So why is Ripto here, acting all chill and asking Spyro to join him on the dark side? Like I said, it's completely out of character from what's been established. So Ripto teleports the Dragonflies away, and now we gotta go find them. With the first of them being found is fucking Sparks. If you ask me, that is some missed potential right there. And now we start the game, and right off the bat we have a billion tutorials for the most basic of shit. Yeah, this is one of those tutorials that essentially tells you how to push buttons. Yippee. The previous Spyro games didn't have that many tutorials. Hell, the very first Spyro game didn't have tutorials at all. I mean, I guess the stone dragons give you hints, but it's not an in-depth analysis on how to use a game controller. Enter the Dragonfly, however, will make sure you know everything, as if it's the first game you've ever played. Hey Spyro, let me tell you about gems. Let me tell you about fodder. Let me tell you about breakable baskets. Let me teach you everything, Spyro. Join Spark's Sparkling Hand-Holding Academy today. Even if you've never played a Spyro game before in your entire life, I'm 99% sure you wouldn't be totally lost if these tutorials just didn't exist. Spyro gameplay isn't really complicated. You'd be able to get down with the gameplay through like 1 or 2 levels. But there is an option to turn the tutorials off, so I won't complain too much. Hey look, an option for widescreen, cool. Alright Hunter, I did your damn gliding challenge for like the billionth time. Give me my fucking Dragonfly, bitch.
Hey, it's Bubbles!
Oh, okay, sure, do that. You know what, Hunter? Why don't you teach me how to do that fucking shit? You already taught me how to glide in the last 2 games, so how about you jump out of the box and tell me how you managed to learn how to fucking fly? Like, I'm a dragon, goddammit, teach me this shit!
So getting around to actually playing and the controls work, that's for sure. I don't know how to exactly put it, but Spyro doesn't exactly feel like he did in the PS1 games, which I guess is to be expected considering the different developers. However, they clearly tried to replicate it 1 for 1, and while it works, it doesn't really feel satisfying at all. It feels less like I'm controlling him and more like I'm just telling him to go. That way. Go, Spyro, go! I believe in you, buddy, just keep going! I'll be right behind you. Behind my TV screen. In addition to that, this world, or overall game, feels lifeless. I mean, the aesthetics look good, it's about on par with the PS1 games, but the assets, specifically the ones where you interact with, like, enemies, gems, and vases, are missing that signature oomph that Spyro games are known for. Nothing has any real impact, everything feels so half-assed. In addition to the character animations looking uncanny as hell, it feels so lifeless. So we walk up to this Crystal Dragon motherfucker who gives us the ability to use Bubble Breath, the ability which allows us to capture dragonflies. You see, the multiple breath abilities are kind of the main highlight of this game. The breath abilities are needed to progress through the game, as the game will have a variety of puzzles throughout the game catered to those abilities, in addition to these gates in the hub that you need specific breaths to unlock. So you'd think for how important these abilities are, they'd have to be unlocked by, I don't know, beating a boss, paying money bags, or anything special, really. But where's the fun in that? Don't you think it's just easier to fucking pick it up in the middle of a random ass spot in the level that is so random that you didn't think it'd be for one of the more important things in the game? Breath abilities themselves aren't particularly fun, to put it lightly. If you ask me, I think having abilities that revolve around elements is honestly the most unoriginal idea you can think of. And yeah, the developers don't really come up with other ways to use them. You know, if you want to power something up, you use electric. You want to melt some sea salt ice cream, use that fire. Want to be Mr. Freeze?
Freeze.
You fucking got it, champ. What I'm saying is, these new abilities don't really add much to what's already been established. I mean, in the previous games you had Head Bash, Supercharge, Invincibility, and more. But for Enter the Dragonfly, it's all based around the breath ability, which can be changed with a push of a button. Oh, that's so fun! I mean, yeah, the idea of having multiple breath abilities is a good way to expand Spyro's moveset, but not when it's literally the main selling point for the game. Out of all the breaths I used, my least favorite is the Bubble Breath. It's the main breath you use for catching dragonflies, and I swear to God it works so inconsistently. Like, I hear people say that you can catch dragonflies by blowing your breath at the absolute tip of Spyro's mouth. But I swear to God, even that doesn't work sometimes. Confounded by the fact that these little bastards like to run away from you, which is not only annoying for the wrong reasons, but is also nonsensical. Like, aren't these fuckers supposed to be on your side? And fuck Bianca's explanation saying they're shy. Do these assholes look shy to you? So yeah, the main collectibles that are needed to beat the game are a pain in the ass to collect. How on earth do you screw that up? Like, I get what they were going for when they come up with the idea at first, but did any of the developers in charge think for a second that maybe this got a little annoying after a while? But whatever, let's go to the first level. Bamboo Terrace, the Dragonfly Dojo. And oof, I am not liking the looks of this. What you have here is a level that exists. Just look at this. This level design looks and plays so dull. The best way I can describe this is that they made one big open sandbox with random assets just plastered everywhere with no real cohesion. I know Spyro games are kinda known for big empty levels, especially in the early levels. However, at least the classics had a somewhat interesting design. I'm going to compare the Dragonfly Dojo to Town Square, one of the very first levels in Spyro 1. In Town Square, you start off in this area with some stairs you can climb off to the left. When you climb up these stairs, you see a big cliff that you can't quite reach, but you know you can get there somehow as there are gameplay elements that can be seen. But in front of that cliff, you see a dragon, who tells you to glide over to the area to the left and begin exploring. And you go to that area to see a bull chasing a Gnorc, which gives the level a sense of personality. And you find more stairs to climb, cliffs to glide across, and best of all, you're incentivized to explore. The game wants you to see what it has to offer, and that's one of the things that made Spyro 1 so good. Now let's look at Dragonfly Dojo. Well, I haven't even pushed a button yet and I already feel uncomfortable. Not in an over-dramatic sense, but in the sense that something just doesn't feel right, you know? Just look at this. Already we're surrounded this big open area with assets just spawned in the most random places. I mean, look how sporadic this looks. I don't want to explore here. I want to run around and play with my dog or some shit. So we free the Dragon Master in the middle and he tells us to recover the other Elder Dragons in the Dragonfly Dojo. Opens the door, then pisses off just like that. So we go down this hall which leads us to an area that just overdoes everything. I mean, yeah, there's more to explore, but good God, this level feels like it should be in the middle of the game, not the first one you play. I'm sorry if I'm coming off as nitpicky, but this game's pacing just feels so weird. I mean, we just started in this big open area with very few gameplay elements to interact with, then we go into this long hall that leads us to a room with 3 different paths. I want to make it clear that this isn't bad game design at all, but as I said earlier, everything feels cobbled together with no real cohesiveness. And this first level sets the precedent for what the rest of the game has to offer. Dragonfly Dojo is a level that has multiple gameplay areas that are connected via these little tunnel areas, and you progress through it in a linear fashion. Whoa, look, it's the king of bricks himself, Moneybags! I guess the developers must have hated Moneybags' greedy ass so much they didn't want to use him anywhere else in the game. Because yes, this is the only time he appears in the game, making gem collecting about as pointless as my existence. Okay. Now, I know this isn't an original complaint, well, none of these are, but the frame rate in this game is something else. The frame rate is inconsistent as all hell. Like, sometimes you'll get a nice silky smooth 60 frames per second, and then a lot of the times you'll jump to 30 or lower. And this is all the time. It happens completely at random, especially if you're playing the PS2 version, which yes, is the reason why I chose the GameCube version. And as someone who already gets headaches really fucking easily, I can tell you this frame rate was not giving me a good mood in the slightest. God damn.
You know what? No, I can't do it. I can't. Like, I was gonna try to go through with this, but you know what? I've played more of this game off camera, and it doesn't get any better. Trust me.
Everything I've said to you is literally the whole game. I mean, there are mini games, but they're boring and about on par with Flash games. But everything else is just Spyro 3 but half-assed all the way. And I guess if you haven't played a Spyro game before in your entire life, I'm sure you'll enjoy this game, but the thing is, I have played a Spyro game. Actually, several of them. And none of them frustrated me as much as this one. I'm sorry for sounding so mean-spirited because I know there are tons of people who fucking love this game. But I am not one of those people. PS2 or GameCube, it doesn't fucking matter. Spyro Enter the Dragonfly, in my opinion, fucking blows.
It's really sad, you know. Looking at this game's development made me really interested in wanting to play it. This game had a rough development, and it shows. And this was just the main game itself. Notice how I hardly talked about the glitches in this game. The glitches are only half of this game's problems. Everything else roots from poor game design.
I'm sorry to all the people watching this who likes this game. I know for a fact that for some people, this was their first Spyro game, the same way Wrath of Cortex was my first Crash Bandicoot game. So yeah, I know it's probably annoying to hear someone talk crap about a game you have fond memories of. And I'm sorry, but that's just my opinion. Now, before I end this review, there's a controversial topic regarding Enter the Dragonfly that I want to touch upon, and that is whether or not Enter the Dragonfly should get a remake in the vein of the Reignited trilogy, only with the cut content put back in. And I'm sorry, but I do not think that is a good idea at all. Maybe for Crash Twinsanity, but definitely not this game. And it's not because I'm biased, kinda. But in the case of Crash Twinsanity, at least that game had a concrete vision. The developers just didn't have the time to put in all their ideas into the game because of tight deadlines. So I actually would be totally blown away if Twinsanity got a remake with the cut content put back in. But in the case of Enter the Dragonfly, I don't think it's worth it. Nor do I think it's even possible, because remember guys, one of the main reasons why the game ended up being as big as doo-doo pal as it is because of the creative differences. Enter the Dragonfly had no concrete vision. It was a Frankenstein's monster of a game that not only was made out of obligation rather than passion, but also had a rather tragic backstory behind it. Again, I'm going to plug that documentary I was talking about earlier. Seriously, please watch it. It's so fascinating. It's so good. So good. So good.
Well, regardless of such, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I just want to clarify, if you guys like this game, you guys are fucking idiots, is what I would say if I were a liar. Honestly, if you guys like this game, that's cool. And it'll always be cool by me. I've said this many times, and I will say it again in this video. A video game is supposed to give you a good time. And if Spyro Enter the Dragonfly just so happens to be your favorite game of all time, well, I would be confused by your opinion, but I would totally respect it all the way to the moon and back, bro. Or sister, whatever the fuck gender is watching this video. Regardless of such, like, if you like this game, keep liking it. Not a problem by me. You're cool in my book. Just know that I'm not the biggest fan. Which is kind of odd because I bought literally 2 copies. I have a lot of mental health issues, okay? So, yeah. So I'm gonna de-poison my mind from that and probably play some Spyro 2 for a bit. So, check you guys later.